TFL EV is brought to you by Flow Charger, maker of reliable, high-quality charging stations for your electric vehicle.
Here I have two all-electric brand new pickup trucks. On this side, of course, this is the F-150 Lightning, and over here, the Rivian R1T. Are they basically the same? They're both electric, right? No, they're actually very different. So in this video, Max, who is behind the camera, and I are gonna show you all the features, specs, and also technology and utility on both of these trucks, so you can decide for yourself, which one would you choose?
Thanks for the introduction, Andre. I'll be talking about the R1T, and we have it for this video courtesy of Scott Lunt with the Rivian Dad YouTube channel. If you're interested in this truck, he has a lot of great in-depth videos on it there. But both of these electric trucks have something interesting. They're steel frames, but aluminum bodies. However, it's not as simple as that sounds. And because we like to be scientists at TFL, we have our precise measuring instruments. We have our draggy magnet, and we have our reliable measuring tape. So come with me and I'll show you something interesting. So on the A-pillar in the Rivian, you can see this magnet's not sticking. Here, somewhere along this structure, you can actually tell it does stick. So that tells you which parts are steel that it sticks to and aluminum that it doesn't. Both of these are aluminum. You can tell that not just with the fact that the magnet doesn't stick, but the fact that they're quite light. You really got to be careful to make sure they properly close. Something else we learned, this magnet isn't just hugging the Rivian because it likes it. This is actually a steel panel here, all on the quarter panel, which is unique. The F-150 doesn't have that. Of course, like I said, I wasn't lying earlier, we do have aluminum doors, but these quarter panels, steel.
Okay, Max, saying that we're scientists is a bit of a stretch, okay? This is a YouTube channel. But I want to call this out. The Rivian R1T is somewhere between a mid-sized traditional truck like a Toyota Tacoma and a full-size truck like the Ford F-150. And to show you that, I'm gonna measure the wheelbase. So a truck like a, thank you, Scott, a truck like a Toyota Tacoma has a wheelbase of around 127 inches. But right here in the Rivian, technically on the spec, we should be at about 135.8-ish. So Scott, if you lift it here, you can see about 135.5 inches, which is actually pretty good. It gives the Rivian R1T a good stable chassis, and the wheels are kind of pushed out to the corners, which is good for off-roading as well. And of course, you have a large passenger compartment here. But let me show you the Lightning. Now, the Lightning is actually an F-150 that's basically been electrified. And to show you this, here, it's supposed to be 145 inches, and it is approximately here in the real world. That's the wheelbase. So that's 10 inches longer than the Rivian. And also much larger bed, that we'll show you in a second, and much larger cab interior volume as well. So this is a proper full-size pickup truck, where the Rivian is kind of an adventure truck, kind of between sizes.
All right, Andre, well, don't be giving me size envy, because the Rivian has something quite interesting. It has a suspension that shares a lot of technology with a McLaren. You don't believe me? Well, let's go inside and see. All right, so the way the Rivian suspension works is it's basically an air system, which you see in a lot of luxury cars and SUVs, not often in trucks. That F-150 over there, well, it does actually have an electronically locking rear diff, which I got wrong in our last video, by the way, which is sort of unique for a truck. It's still much more conventional, much more what you would expect out of a standard, Ford truck. This is like the McLaren system in that there's a hydraulically interlinked damper system that controls the air suspension. That's used not only for body roll control, but also to actually give you adjustable ride height. You can see on the screen here that our ride height is adjustable. It actually is adjustable from about 15 inches to 9.5 all the way. So that's quite a range, and that's possible thanks to the air suspension.
Yes, Max, I know the Rivian has really great ground clearance. 15 inches is a lot. The Ford, on the other hand, does not have height adjustable suspension, but it's quite unique for a full-size truck. Like you were mentioning, independent rear suspension. Look at the size of those trailing arms and A-arms. Dual motor setup. I don't need 4 motors, okay? I can live with 2. Also a selectable rear locker. Really beefy skid plates. Take a look. So even though I don't have as much ground clearance as you in the Rivian, I still have a really good all-wheel drive system. Okay, Max, I know you have height adjustable suspension, really great ground clearance, but this is what I have in the F-150 Lightning. On the rear, this is my ride height sensor, which not only tells the computer exactly the level of the truck, but it can measure payload, it can measure tongue weight on trailers. Let me show you inside how that works. Okay, this is my Lightning interior, so let me fire up the truck. Okay, I'm sorry, power up, not fire up. We'll talk about technology a little bit later, but let me show you this. First of all, let me start air conditioner before we pass out. Okay, now I can go to my profile and I have onboard scales. It's over here. Nice. Status. Vehicle is in park on level surface. Yes, all that is true. And look at this number. My maximum payload in this extended range Lariat model F-150 Lightning is about 1,675 pounds, which is, by the way, Max, a lot more than you have in that Rivian. But also, as soon as you load something in the bed or hook up a trailer, it will give you an estimate, fairly accurate estimate actually, of amount of load you have in the truck, which I don't see Rivian doing.
Okay, Andre, so you've got a couple of 100 pounds of payload capacity, big deal. But in the Rivian, you know what most people want to do with a truck? They want to store stuff. They don't care how much it weighs, they care about volume. And we've got a lot of volume in the Rivian, specifically with the gear tunnel, which is, well, quite a cool feature. Come with me here. You can see this door pops open. We've got Scott's backpack here. We've got some of our camera gear, and you can see him waving there. That goes through the entire truck. How cool is that? But that's not the only thing I like. You can also, by the way, get like a kitchen that folds out of this. There's a lot of cool stuff Rivian does here. But this is rated for 250 pounds, so my lanky frame can stand on it just fine, and I can be very tall, you know, overlook my trailhead, do whatever it is off-roaders do, and it's cool. Another cool thing, by the way, about the Rivian, the key is a carabiner. Now, I won't use this lead climbing. I don't think it's like, you know, really rated for that, but you can put this around a belt, and that's pretty cool. Your F-150 key is not that special. And of course, we can use it to open the front trunk in the Rivian, or should I say, the frunk. You've got a lot of storage space here, and this actually opens to reveal even more. This is where you've got your chargers, and you can see we've even got like a cargo net here, so very practical space.
Okay, Max, you have a cute carabiner there, but I can also open my frunk using this Ford key. Double tap right here. It does do a couple beeps. It may not be as quick as your frunk lid, but look, I can actually easily get into this, load stuff into it. This is 14.1 cubic feet. That's 11.1 cubic feet. I do have a little, of course, secondary floor here, similar to you. Okay, this is a charger cable there. And you can put up to 400 pounds of cargo or tools in here. And there's something else that the Rivian doesn't have. 2.4 kilowatts of total inverter power here in the front. 4 120 volt outlets, USB A, USB C. Pretty cool stuff. So you can charge your tools or accessories or wherever you're bringing with you to the campsite. Right there, I think the frunk is way more useful here. And I'm not done yet. Let me show you in the back. And I think the best part of the Lightning is actually the bed. It's usable. It's a regular F-150 bed. I can open my tailgate with a couple of clicks, okay? And it's a 5.5 foot bed. I can actually show you with my measuring tape. This has kind of their latest tailgate with a measuring tape. So when I catch my big fish, you know, I can lay it out here and show you. Also put my cups, my pencils, my devices, and I have a step. You've seen this before, probably in the Ford. Easily get in and out. I have the payload. I also have tie downs, cleats, And I have 7.2 kilowatt of additional power, including a 240 volt circuit. And you've seen us power many different things with a system like this. This is quite good. You can also charge other vehicles, maybe power your house. So I think the Lightning offers just a lot of utility in this space.
Okay, that's great that when you're lazy, you can lift your power lift gate, but on the Rivian, see how we have crossbars here? You can live an active lifestyle with the Rivian thanks to this Yakima Rack. We can put bikes, kayaks, canoes on it, but of course it's a truck, so you might want to use the bed. Well, guess what? Of course, this is lockable here, as you can see, but these lockable crossbars are unlocked right now, meaning that Scott and I can actually lift them, and we can just take this right off the truck. And now, after a weekend of adventuring, you know, it's the work week. I need to bring some stuff in. Well, I can do that on the Rivian, and I've got this, you know, bed cover, nothing special, but this bed cover actually is powered. You don't see that a lot in the truck industry. And if I open my powered down lift gate, you can see that I've actually got a decent amount of space. And what's this, you ask? Well, this is an air compressor hose because the Rivian, well, it's designed for you, the off-roader, right? We have an air compressor in the Rivian. So if you come with me here, I'm gonna get in the bed and I'll actually show you that we've got this really cool gizmo here. So what we do is we just simply set our pressure. We, you know, plug in our thread here, and then of course we would plug this into the tire or whatever we're trying to inflate. By the way, you can adapt this to Presta or Schrader for all you mountain bikers out there, and we can inflate our tires. So let's say you want to air down for hitting the trails, but then of course you've got to get back on the highway. Well, you can inflate with the Rivian, and yeah, I know you could buy a compressor for the Ford, but it's not going to be this cool, and it's not going to come with it. So this is a full-size spare tire, and we've got our tools, our jack, you know, to actually get that installed. And let's say you're not using this for the spare wheel compartment because this is an option on Rivians, this actually drains. So really cool area. You could have, you know, an ice cooler party in here over the summer. So really nice. All right, well, this isn't just a millennial juice delivery truck, Andre. We have tie down points too. So I think that's pretty practical in the Rivian. And you've got this, two, you know, 120 volt AC outlets, which are capable of each providing up to 400 watts of power. There's a total system power in this truck that can output of 1500 watts. So yeah, you can't, you know, power an RVAC or charge another EV like you can do with the Lightning, but I think most people just want to charge a laptop, maybe their boombox, you know, run a air compressor. You can do all that in the Rivian. By the way, the air compressor, like we talked about earlier, is built in. And because this truck is full of surprises, Rivian actually has this feature called a gear guard. So see this, you know, stuff here? Well, it actually locks in here, so we can thread them through. So what I would do is I would put them through each other, right? We've got our loop. We can kind of put this around the frame of a bike, let's say. And then this actually locks when you lock the truck. And I think Ford agrees, Rivian agrees, 2 outlets in the bed. Well, that's not enough. So they give you another 110 volt outlet right here in the, you know, in the gear tunnel. On the other side, we actually get a normal standard 12 volt cigarette lighter. And if Andre gets up here, you can actually see that there are tie down points there. So for putting on your roof rack, you can tie stuff down. Like I said, boats, bikes, whatever. This is a super capable adventure truck.
I noticed one more thing, Max, because, well, you're younger than me, but there's no bumper here really to kind of climb up, and if you have a tent up here. So what are the only option? I think is to climb on the, for me at least, is to climb on the tire. Okay, so that's okay. But check out the F-150. So first of all, if you don't want to open the tailgate, you do have quite a nice step. You can easily climb this way, but also you have a side step here with a light nonetheless. Can you reach in your bed right here. So I think usability wise, maybe Ford is a little bit better. I promise you we'll be using the tape, so let's check out the length, not of just the F-150 Lightning's bed, but also all the way to the tailgate. Because what if you want to carry like a 4x8 sheet of plywood or something like this? 92 inches here to the tailgate, and 8 feet is actually right here. So if you are carrying that most important sheet of plywood. It's only going to overhang by about 4 inches. Let's check the Rivian. We mentioned this before, the Rivian R1T is actually a little bit shorter and a little bit narrower than the F-150. But most importantly, in the bed, it's about 50 inches wide, which means, yes, that 4x8 sheet of material should fit width-wise, but what about length? If I stretch it out all the way over there and all the way across the tailgate, this is right about 7 feet. So yeah, overall, this bed is shorter. I like how actually it's a smooth load floor, but 8 feet would be right here. So it overhangs by just about a foot. And because you could tie it down, I think it's okay. And next, what about, do you have that button on the key fob to lift it up? No, I didn't think so. I have to do it manually, okay.
Okay, Andre, so you can carry that plywood and you'll have a minimum amount of overhang, but in the real world, time is money. And let's say you need to deliver that plywood fast. Well, the Rivian is here to provide you with that power because it launches to 60 in 3 seconds. This Lightning's no slouch, you know, it has 580 horsepower, it's 775 pound-feet of torque. We've seen that's enough to beat even the venerable TRX. I mean, this is not a sports truck, and yet it is very fast. But the Rivian, well, it's just on another level. That plywood is going to be flying because this is 835 horsepower and 906 pound-feet of torque from this quad motor variant. That is just insane power. And like I said, quad motors, so that power can actually be put down very efficiently. And as we've shown in that drag race, this Rivian has what it takes to beat the Ford in style.
Here at the back of the R1T, you can see a 2-inch receiver still here, 7-pin connector for your trailers. This truck is rated to tow up to 11,000 pounds. We actually did an iGauntlet World's Toughest Towing Test with not this exact truck, but a truck that's almost identical to this. So those are good numbers, and you can see it's tucked away a little bit more because Rivian is conscious about off-roading, so this has a better departure angle than the Ford. But let me show you the Ford system. Once again, same thing, 2-inch receiver. And this hitch is a little bit more accessible, so it's a little bit easier to hook up some chains, traditional F-150 stuff. Your electric connections for the trailer up here. Also a 4-pin if you're carrying something lighter, maybe a smaller trailer. So that's pretty nice. And the most important feature, I think, for trucks, this is a true working truck, or can be. Let me show you inside. I'm gonna fire this truck. I wanna power this truck up again. And I think most electric vehicles, if not all, should have this feature max. Check it out. You see at the top there are 2 temperature gauges. There is a battery temperature gauge and there is a motor temperature gauge. And that's pretty critical for if you're towing a heavy trailer, carrying lots of payload. If it's really cold outside or really hot outside, you have an idea about how hard your truck is working. And I think more vehicles need to give that feedback to the driver. I also have my trip meter over here, very easily accessible. We've been sitting here for a while going nowhere. And then this is my battery state. By the way, these 2 trucks have similar battery sizes, 131 kilowatt hours in the truck here in the Lightning, about 135 total kilowatt hours in the R1T. They both have similar driving ranges according to the EPA, about 320 miles here in the Lightning, about 314 miles over there in the R1T. And charge speeds are also about the same, but Max will tell you a little bit more about that.
All right, so aside from having this really cool motorized opening, the Rivian is actually quite the charger because, you know, that F-150 Lightning over there is 170 kilowatts of power in at best case scenario. The Rivian can accept, Scott has seen this, 218 kilowatts of power, theoretically maybe even more because of its fast charging capability. However, something to note is the team in their testing of the F-150 Lightning, and what we found is just that the times are actually about a dead heat when you consider it, because the Lightning has a very nice charging curve where it actually doesn't aggressively drop off. The Rivian can peak higher, has a higher max, but it tends to drop off. So at the end, it kind of evens out. All right, so as I get the AC going in the Lightning, it's quite hot in here on this day. I just want to talk about the interior here because it's quite nice. We've got the Lariat trim, so this is not what you're going to see on the Pro model, the very base one, but you've got these nice kind of leather seats. And Ford, despite what you may think of as, red meat America, is actually being a little ego-conscious. There's kind of some soy material that makes up the padding in the seats. So this isn't an entirely environmentally unfriendly truck, and of course it is electric. But something I don't like in here is, well, this is nice, it's high tech, we've got this big 15-inch screen. I wouldn't say it feels like nice, right? It's a truck, which isn't bad. It's an F-150 if you're familiar with it, but like the materials are just kind of plasticky, especially like on the door panels here. You've got just a lot of hard plastics, which do feel kind of cheap. Now they're very rugged, very durable, so I don't think a lot of people getting this truck will mind too much, but I think it's worth noting. And if you come over here, Andre, something that I think is really cool on the F-150 is this feature where you can basically fold down the PRND selector, and you do that so that you can fold this out, and then you've got this like huge work area, which is really cool. And that also shows that Ford has actually, I'll give them credit, they've thought a lot about what their people are going to be doing. People who own this truck will be signing contracts, having work site documents, and you can actually get those done here. Okay, so we've got the settings here on Ford Sync 4A, and if you want to learn more about all the nerdy details of this operating system, I've actually got quite a long video going over that that just goes very in depth. Now, I did get one thing wrong here. I also want to point out locking diff. This truck does have an electronically locking rear differential, but like Andre was saying, dual motor all-wheel drive. Because it's electric, there's no need to connect the front and rear axles with a drive shaft, which is cool. But yeah, so if you want to see that video with all the tech, I've got that up on TFL EV. All right, so we're in the Rivian, and I have to say, I feel like this is just a nicer place to be in some respects. You've got your vents, of course, in the back in the F-150, and you've got your heated rear seats. But here, you have a touchscreen to control that in the rear. I think that's a pretty cool feature. And you've got 2 USB-C ports, so very modern. And if you actually look here, Andre, you've got USB-C on the back of the headrest of the seats. I think that's just very thoughtful, cool design touch. Something else I wanted to mention is that you've got you don't have the work area that Ford gives you, but you've got this little kind of storage cubby, which goes quite deep. Again, these electric trucks, because of the way they're packaged, they don't necessarily have to have a drive shaft. They can do some pretty cool things in that little middle compartment. But overall, like I was saying, this is just a nice place to be. We've got our heated, cooled seats, our vegan material on the seats as well, and there's a Meridian audio system in this. You've got a B&O system on the Lariat Lightning. Both audio systems are very nice, but I really just like what Rivian is doing with the dash here as well. This is just very nicely grained wooden-like material, very nice. And if we look at the screen here, here's a interesting ideological difference, right? Ford has their vertical screen, Rivian's got their landscape screen, and both interestingly have Amazon. I'm not going to say her name, but you know what, Alexa, and it works well in both vehicles. In the Rivian, she can actually do quite cool stuff. So I can say, Alexa, open the front trunk.
Sorry, I didn't get that.
Now, voice assistants are voice assistants, so that has worked, but not working at the moment, of course. But this screen is great. It's a little bit more, honestly, Tesla-like than Ford, and take that as you will. That has its ups and downs. So if you can see, if I go in the full climate settings here, I've got touchscreen vents, right? That's kind of wacky, right? But like a Model 3, like the Teslas, you just move the vents around the touchscreen. You don't actually use the physical controls on the vents themselves like you would in the Ford or honestly most vehicles. I personally don't love that. I think it's a little bit weird. That said, I give Rivian credit for putting this in a consistent place. You always have your climate controls here, which is nice. I'm not going to go as in depth here as I did in that Ford Sync 4A video, but overall I would say this is a really nice infotainment system. It is very responsive. One big con here that I don't like is you don't get Apple CarPlay and you don't get Android Auto in the Rivian. Rivian is also like Tesla in that respect. They really are proud of their system. They're proud of the Amazon you-know-what integration. So they want to keep you in that system. And you know, Scott was showing me you've got Spotify here, you've got your navigation, which is great. It all works well, but you can't use your phone like you can in the Ford. You can do it in the Ford whether you have an Android or iPhone. Here, all you can do is just Bluetooth. You can't get the Google Maps or Apple Maps if you prefer those. Like I said, though, overall, nice system, very responsive. I would argue more responsive than the Ford. I've noticed, and some of you pointed this out in our video where we rescued the Mini EV with the Ford. That was actually Andre's Power Boost, but same system. The touchscreen can get kind of slow and unresponsive. Maybe it's the hot weather or something. In the Rivian here, you know, it's still a hot day, but super responsive, feels just like my smartphone or like an iPad. Really nice system. So that's kind of the Rivian from the tech and interior point of view. I think very well thought out vehicle, not without its quirks, but quite luxurious and quite nice. So yeah, you can be productive and whatnot in the Ford with that, you know, little middle area. But on the Rivian, it's about having fun because ultimately I think that's the best part of life. And well, we've got a Bluetooth speaker that comes with the Rivian. This guy is fully charged up, just waiting for us, charging here. We can pair our phone to it and we can have a party at the tailgate. We can hit the trail, bring this with us. So I think this is a really cool feature.
But Max, one question, okay? Where's your glove box? Where do I press? How do I...
Andre, that's such a Ford thing to say, you know. Us Rivian people really don't need a glove box. In fact, we've got so much cargo space, I don't think it's something you need to worry about. All right, so in the UK, across the pond, you can get a Rolls Royce and it'll have an umbrella in the door sill. Well, here in America, with our trucks, we have flashlights, and I think that's pretty cool. Rivian gives you this flashlight, which is rated for up to 1,000 lumens, quite bright. And the nice feature is if I turn it on, I'm using it, I don't even have to remember to turn it off. I can actually just stow it away, and the truck is smart enough to turn it off for me. One thing I don't like, however, is the way this is stored. To basically get it out, you're getting your gross finger coating on the lens. So not a huge fan of that design, but I like the feature.
All right, Max. So that was a very long video. I think there's good and bad, I think, in each truck, so to speak. So how do we decide? How much actually would you pay for one of these Rivian R1Ts?
So one like this with the quad motors, you're looking at about $85,000 if you were to reserve yours now. That said, you can get some cheaper Rivians. You can get the dual motor versions, which aren't shipping quite yet, but if you reserve yours, you can get those for as low as $73,000.
Okay, but you have to wait for that. The Lightning is kind of a different story, or kind of the same story actually. The Lariat you see here with a larger battery pack and maximum towing package, we paid $80,700 for this one. They can be about $93,000 for a platinum model, or they can start at $40,000, which are hard to find. Those are the Lightning Pro models. So which one would you choose if you had 80 grand, or if you can buy either one?
Well, you know, maybe it's because my friends are getting me into climbing, but despite lacking side cells, I feel like I can still navigate around the Rivian. And as someone who does like to kind of go outside, camp and bike and stuff, the Rivian speaks a lot to me, the R1T. I just love how this truck works. It might not be as practical as the Ford, which, you know, you can conceivably see this as a fleet vehicle. There's the Pro trims of this, of course, which are much more affordable. But for me, and my taste, I think the Rivian is the vehicle to have.
And for me, at the end of the day, I just like the larger platform of this truck, even though it may not be as quick as the Rivian. So let us know what you think in the comments below. Of course, alltfl.com is one-stop shop, right? Where you can find everything automotive in one place.